Okay, now I'm going to introduce you to something that also has a really interesting way or impact of combining multiple layers. You can see that from this composition I've got this one circle, looks like just a red circle. It's just a circle I've created just like this by going on here, creating an elliptical marquee, choosing an area, and then just painting in that area, a color that I came up with the paint bucket tool. Okay, and you can see it's nothing special. I've actually put it on the same layer as this other layer that I have here. Now by themselves they just look like boring old shapes, but when I start to play around with what's called blending modes, okay, then I can start to do some interesting things. You notice these drop down dialog boxes. They exist on different tools, and sometimes you might see that, for instance, in the paint tool or the paint bucket, or even in the gradient tool. But here I can choose different ways to blend these layers together. Notice as I start to play with this, okay, they're going to have some really interesting looks that are added. So notice how this red tint now is added to everything else underneath it. That what was once solid becomes transparent. Okay, multiplying it. Sometimes they don't do much. Sometimes they do really drastic things that look beautiful. I happen to like this lighten area. Okay, you could even play, with some of the other ones just to see what kind of effects they do. But personally, I think the overlay is kind of interesting as well. So these are all just kinds of what we call composite modes, or transfer modes, or blending modes. Okay, so playing around with these and how you blend your objects can do some really interesting things. You can even put blending modes of color on top of objects. I'll go over that later in a more advanced tutorial. You could even go on and screen things on top of each other, or lighten one thing on top of each other. It's a really unique way of blending things. Remember that when you have an image like this that's a certain form, I can always grab it and move that shape around so it highlights certain things. Like I might want it to highlight the flower that I have here in this picture. I can always darken or make things brighter by playing with my opacity. Okay, so if I drop the opacity on this, it makes them so they're more ghosted and more highlighted, and it blends the whole image together as opposed to being at 100%. Okay, so when you think you can't do anything more to a layer, go ahead and play around with its blending mode and its opacity, and you might surprise yourself with some of the unique combinations that you can come up with.